Back here on SportsCenter with a developing story. A settlement Friday ended 3 separate federal antitrust lawsuits claiming that the NCAA illegally limited the earning power of college athletes. Since 2021, student athletes have been allowed to profit via name, image, and likeness agreements, receiving money from third parties as de facto salaries. Now that money will come directly from athletic departments, roughly $20.5 million annually starting this scholastic year. Additionally, the NCAA will pay nearly $2.8 billion in back damages to athletes who have competed since 2016. Reporter Pete Thamel has much more on this story. Pete, we have 3 simultaneous settlements that come into play July 1st. That is weeks from now. What does this mean for college sports?
Well, Phil, I think we have to start from the macro. The formal settlement last night around 6:10 West Coast time is a giant moment in the history of college sports. And it's so significant because schools can now directly share revenue with athletes after generations of payments going under the table, black market. We've seen them pop up in federal court and other places, NCAA infractions cases in different ways. The biggest takeaway from the macro for the common fan here is that schools can pay athletes, and that is significant. It is not unexpected, but it's been formalized. As for the next steps and the sprint you're talking about, Phil, it is going to be messy. An entire new infrastructure for enforcement has to be put into place by July 1st. NIL deals are going to start going through a clearinghouse called NIL Go, which is run through the accounting firm Deloitte, starting June 11th. That's Wednesday. So this is going to be a summer of very few vacation homes and a lot of sprinting for athletic department members around the country to try to adjust to this new reality.
Very few vacation homes indeed. Pete, you mentioned it. Abrupt change and precise change. Those don't always go hand in hand. In theory, you would think a salary cap would level a playing field ultimately once we figure out the details. To what degree do you think it will?
That's a fascinating question, and there are so many variables between what's being structured and what's going to actually happen that I'm hesitant to predict an ideal situation. I think, Phil, the reality for a lot of this is the schools, the big box brands, the ones whose logos you recognize, have always had a competitive advantage for those brands. And how the NIL system is going to be set up, meaning schools can give $20.5 million for their athletes. So in theory, that is going to be evenly spread. But where the competitive advantages go, they used to be called gray areas, are now going to be how much outside NIL is going to be available to those athletes. You're not supposed to promise it up front, but look, Texas is going to have more outside NIL available than Louisiana Monroe as it goes. So how those deals are accepted through this NIL clearinghouse. Look, they named a CEO of the College Sports Commission last night. Like by midnight, there were a flurry of tweets, and it was like, hi, I'm your new commission, and this is your new commissioner, and we're going to run college sports now. The old NCAA enforcement model, as we knew it, is primarily dead. NCAA enforcement still exists for academic cases and fairness of the game cases, as the Stallions case in Indianapolis this weekend is going on. But there is a whole new sheriff in town. His name is Brian Seeley, and he comes over from Major League Baseball, and he was hired formally within 3 hours of the settlement coming. His job and the role of his organization is ultimately going to determine your question, Phil, of whether this evens the playing field or those advantages still exist.
Fascinating few weeks ahead. You can read all the details we have right now and those as this story inevitably evolves on ESPN.com and the ESPN app. Pete Thamel, thanks so much.